So a lot of people are having a little bit of a kerfuffle over the fact that RedFall is going to be 30 frames a second. I wanted to have a conversation about this, so I decided to bring two unemotional, uninvested people into the conversation, and that was two different AIs. Let's discuss the three theories that they cooked up on why RedFall is at 30 frames a second on launch. Yes, I said AI. They're taking over the world.
Terminate.
So yes, unless you've been living under a rock, under another rock, we all know at this point that RedFall is going to be released at 30 frames a second in quality mode on the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X. And everybody really got up in arms over this conversation. I even had a really little bit of a, shall I say, rant video myself. Go check it out if you want to hear me go off. But I decided to hit up two different individual AIs and open up dialogue between them on exactly what they think that this could be, what they think could be the reason for this. And the reason why I engaged AI is they are, in my opinion, a really great source of information. They actually help me do a lot of data gathering, both professionally and personally. And to kind of protect myself, I'm not going to say which ones I involved. I'm going to go over their findings. I will stand by my own honor as a human being. I try not to clickbait anybody. This is legit. These were all statements that were created by two different artificial intelligences to kind of concoct these three theories that they have come up with. And they did also decide to engage me in a little bit of an intro that they wanted to kind of put out there. That there are several issues that can arise when playing video games at 60 frames per second on home consoles. One of the most common issues is screen tearing, which occurs when parts of multiple frames are visible at once. Most console games either run at 30 or 60 FPS. However, having a higher frame rate makes a game more demanding to run. On consoles especially, this usually means that games with high frame rates like 60 frames per second have less impressive visuals or are scaled back on a technical level in some way. And in having this conversation, they cooked up three individual theories that we are going to start listing right now. The last one is going to probably piss a lot of people off, and stay tuned for that one. But let's get the first theory out of the way. The first theory that is proposed by the AIs is the least controversial one, and that is that it is a problem that is contained to the looter shooter genre exclusively, especially looter shooters that have a multiplayer feature behind them. Looter shooter games are known to have issues with frame rate drops when there are too many enemies on screen or when there are too many particle effects happening at once. This can cause the game to stutter or drop frames, which can be frustrating to players. However, most modern looter shooter games are optimized to run at a consistent frame rate on consoles. Looter shooter games are demanding on game consoles because they often have large open worlds with lots of enemies and particle effects on screen at once. These games often involve fast-paced action and require a lot of processing power to render the game world and the various on-screen elements. This can cause the game to slow down or stutter if the console isn't power enough to handle it. Additionally, looter shooter games often have complex AI systems that require a lot of processing power to run smoothly. Looter shooter games are known to have frame rate issues. These issues can occur no matter your setup, leading to stuttering and freezing in-game that can seriously hamper your performance. Frame rate issues with looter shooters on consoles can occur when the game is unable to render the graphics and other elements fast enough to maintain a smooth and consistent frame rate. And they even gave a few examples of games that had frame rate issues, like Gotham Knights. I even experienced frame rate issues as well because as I played the game and too many enemies were on the screen, particle effects, explosions, everything else taking place, my frame rates would actually drop down into the single digits on Gotham Knights. And even one of the executive producers over at Gotham Knights claimed that due to the presence of a fully untethered cooperative experience in a highly detailed open world, the game had to be locked at 30 FPS. And even then, there was still serious frame rate issues, even with it locked. Then the AIs went off and named 4 other games. One of them was Anthem. Many players reported frame rate issues, especially on console, and also received criticism for its poor performance on all platforms. Destiny 2, a game that has received praise for its gameplay and visuals, but has also been criticized for its inconsistent frame rate on consoles. Borderlands 3, the game has received criticism for its poor performance on consoles, especially in split-screen mode. The Division 2, it was a game released in 2019, and even though available on multi-platforms, the game has received praise for its gameplay and visuals, but it has also been criticized for its inconsistent frame rate on consoles. It seems like this is an issue that is really heavily prominent in the looter-shooter genre of games, which is why, in my opinion, I have to agree with the community that maybe the time of the looter shooter has really seen its day, and maybe it's time to move on and not make them as mainstream as they are. We've already seen the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League delayed to 2024 because of how a lot of people are not happy with how the game looked, and even it was a force-fed looter shooter. But one of the main things that I got out of this, and we kind of at least I helped kind of concoct this side of the idea, was that the main reason why for the 30 FPS, if it's because of it's a looter shooter genre thing, is that maybe that they are locking the game at 30 frames per second during the time of the game for the first few months, during when there is going to be reviews taking place for the game, because we all know that most review sites do not knock a game for being released at 30 frames per second. They knock a game when there is performance issues and frame drops and other lagging stuff that affects gameplay, and generally that knocks the score of the game. So maybe this is just a way of getting the game out into the world during the review period, and they'll unlock the frame rate after the review period, so that way they don't have to worry about it becoming something that is commonly mentioned in most reviews. Again, that is just the first theory. Let's move on to the second one. The second theory gets a little bit more controversial, and that is optimization. Another cause of frame rate issues can be related to the game's programming or optimization. If the game is not optimized properly, it can cause frame rate drops and other performance issues even on high-end consoles. To address frame rate issues, developers may release updates or patches that optimize the game's performance. And also, issues with internet connectivity or server performance can also impact 60 frames per second gameplay in online multiplayer games. If there is a lag or other network issues, it can make it difficult to achieve a consistent 60 frames per second experience. And again, to mention that looter shooters often have a complex AI system that could be affected by by network issues. Now, let's just point out that there is an always online feature to RedFall. Maybe this constant online feature is the reason why that there could be potential frame rate issues with 60 frames a second, because there's going to be some issues between communication between the game and the server. And you never know, it could even come down to communication with the AI between the game and the server. Some AIs really are still in their learning phases, especially, let's think about it. This is a new style of game for this publisher with RedFall, with Arkane, and they're still probably hammering out some kinks. Maybe some of these kinks need to be taken out while the game is live. You know, they have to launch the game into a real world scenario to be able to correct some of the issues that they know are going to take place, and the only way to do that is to just put it out there and see how it's going to react on a real world level and correct the issues. Maybe they're at that point where they can only do so much in a contained environment, and at this time they got to put it out in the world just to optimize and dial it in, kind of like using these AIs. A lot of them have disclaimers that warn you that these AIs can sometimes maybe get things wrong, or also say pretty crazy things, because the AIs are still a little bit in their learning phase. But again, these AIs that I'm using are really great in helping gather data. And again, these are actually very relevant theories on why this situation is taking place with RedFall. But now it's time to drop the bombshell, the most controversial one of all, on why there is probably frame issues with RedFall. Okay, so the final theory that the AIs decided to cook up, this is the one where you guys might get out of your chair, throw something at the computer screen, is it brought up hardware limitations. Another issue that can affect 60 frames performance is hardware limitations. While the Xbox Series X is a powerful console, some games may be too demanding for it to consistently achieve 60 frames per second. In these cases, players may need to adjust the graphics settings or resolution to achieve a smoother game experience. A lot of times they don't give us those sliders though. One common cause of frame rate issues with looter shooters on consoles is the hardware limitations of the console itself. The consoles have a limited amount of processing power, memory, and graphic capabilities, which can make it difficult for them to keep up with the demands of modern looter shooter games. While the Series X is designed to support 60 frames per second gameplay for many games, some players have reported issues with achieving a consistent 60 FPS experience. One issue that can impact 60 FPS performance is game optimization. Some games may not be able to run as smoothly at 60 FPS on the Series X, which can result in frame rate drops or other performance issues. Overall, while the Xbox Series X is designed to support 60 FPS gameplay, there are several factors that can impact its performance, and in some cases, players may simply just need to adjust their expectations and accept that the game may not run as smoothly on their console as it would on a high-end gaming PC. The AI just flat out bluntly said it, that the expectations may be absolutely too high at this point, and people are expecting way too much out of these consoles. These are really great machines. There is features to them that make them next gen, but at the same time, let's just accept it that maybe, regretfully, because of some really hot keywords and statements made in the game console sphere, both on parties on both sides, both Xbox and PlayStation, that there is a lot of people that are expecting 60 frames per second and everything, and that's just not possible. They're expecting way too much too quickly, and that's something I'm completely fine with. Why? Well, let's really take a look at the real situation there with that. For starters, only 41% of households that buy televisions have adopted 4K televisions, at least here in the United States. So that means almost 59% of the households that have televisions don't even have a TV that's really capable of 60 frames a second. 2, movies and television are filmed at 30 frames per second. I understand that you want your games at 60 frames per second. I play some games at 60 frames per second when I have the option, but if you really want my opinion, I'm a little bit of a resolution whore. I love shiny objects. I've got ADD. Oh, look, squirrel. Yeah, shiny object. At any rate, I actually love games that are heavy in resolution and shadowing, ray tracing, all that fun stuff that obviously gets dumbed down when you turn it on performance mode. And that's just the way it is. Like, regretfully, the only people that are really championing 60 frames per second are people that A, want their consoles on par with a PC, or it's the PC community directly. I don't need the PC community to strap on their little Velcro cape and save me from the 30 FPS monster. They come out, we've been trying to get games to 60 FPS forever. That is for their own damn benefit because they feel they need 60 frames a second. And I have to agree with some of the people like in the media and some of the people that I chat with that are real people, that at this point, PC gamers are becoming a little snobbish and self-centered and expecting that everything needs to be 60 frames per second, and they gotta come rescue me when a game comes out at 30 frames per second, when they cannot accept the fact that literally 30 frames a second is an industry standard for movies and television, and literally almost 60% of households don't even have devices in their home that are capable of even rendering a 60 frames per second on the screen. So guess what that makes them? A minority. And you know how it goes in a voting democracy is the minority loses. And that's why these companies concentrate on the majority. But let's just say at the end of the day, this whole video, consulting the AI, the stuff that's come out of it, this was just really honestly theories that I thought it'd be fun. You know, let's have an AI or two get involved. Let's concoct some really good theories. Let's not be fanboys about it. Let's just be really level-headed and throw some good logical thought into the conversation. But at the end of the day, this was also just for fun. This was to also really see, could AI be used to really hatch out some good theories on why this is even happening. But at the end of the day, who cares? Let's just play our games. Let's enjoy them. And let's not let people come out here and dictate to us on what we should enjoy and what should not be enjoyable, especially when it comes to something as trivial as a damn frame rate. It's kind of like back in the day when people were counting blades of grass. We now went from grass gate to frame gate. Everybody, if you enjoyed today's video, as always, please give me like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Tell your grandmother about me. Always hit down in the comment section, and if you have any complaints at all or just want to agree with me or just say hi, I always read the comments. I'm always thankful for the interaction. I am Centurion1307. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and until next time, see you around.